Hi everyone, it's M31. Today we're going to continue our dive into one of my favorite things about Red Dwarf, the way it borrows wild ideas from science, especially quantum mechanics, and turns them into comedy gold. Now, I'll admit up front, I've never really understood much about quantum mechanics. Matter, light, quarks, electrons, gluons. It all feels like the universe's inside joke that nobody actually gets. Well, I don't get it. Even Einstein called some of it spooky. But here's the thing. Quantum mechanics shows up in Red Dwarf a lot. And when it does, it's usually funny, sometimes confusing, and somehow it still manages to sneak in real science. Let's start with quantum entanglement. So imagine I've got two socks. One's red and one's blue, and I put them in sealed boxes. And one of the boxes stays here on Earth, and the other goes to the moon. Later on, I open my box, which is on the Earth, and I see a red sock. And obviously, I know the blue sock must be on the moon in that box. That's easy, right? Except here's quantum mechanics, and it says, no, this is the way it works. Until I actually open my box, the socks aren't really either red or blue. They're in this bizarre superposition, both colors at the same time. Only when I look does one decide what it is, and instantly across space, the other sock resolves to the opposite. That's quantum entanglement, particles acting like they share a cosmic secret, no matter how far apart they are. It's really weird, but science experiments have shown that it's real. And it's one of those things that reminds you the universe might be more connected than we think. So, how does Red Dwarf play with this? Well, actually in all sorts of ways. Let's run through some of those episodes. First, let's take a look at dimension jump. The many worlds interpretation, or NWI, of quantum mechanics is basically the backbone of this Red Dwarf episode, and its sequel, Stoke Me A Clipper, which we'll talk about later. In Dimension Jump, Ace Rimmer only exists because every time a choice was made, the universe split into new branches. One where Rimmer, the Rimmer we know, stayed the same Smeghead, and the other where he became the dashing hero Ace. The quantum Zeno effect, which states that the more you observe a system, the more it resists change, possibly adds a twist here. If you keep observing Rimmer in his usual state, you'll freeze him in that track, and he'll be doomed to mediocrity. But stop watching for a moment. Let the quantum dice roll, and suddenly a whole other branch, another Rimmer, emerges, jetting off in a dimension-hopping spacecraft. In Red Dwarf fashion, quantum mechanics isn't just math or science, it's the excuse for an infinite supply of Rimmers, ranging from heroic to hopeless. And of course, the punchline is that somewhere, somehow, Arnold Judas Rimmer actually turned out cool. Alright, let's take a look at Parallel Universe. If we apply the Many Worlds interpretation to this episode, our dwarfers slipped sideways into a neighboring branch of the universal wave function, one that diverged from theirs a long time ago. And Holly's Hollyhop drive goes wrong and provides that gateway to this parallel universe, where everything's reversed: gender roles, biology, and even expectations. I'll admit it's not my favorite episode, but it certainly is a spot-on story and representation of MWI. Let's talk about Stoke Me A Clipper now. This is Dimension Jump's sequel. Ace Rimmer is back, but this time he needs our favorite Rimmer, Arnold Judas Rimmer, to step up and become the new Ace. And the classic line, "Stoke me a clipper, I'll be back for Christmas." In this episode, MWI is expanded on a bit more. As one Ace dies, another Ace is recruited to take his place. It's a fun play on continuity across universes, and the idea that identities can be passed along even across dimensions. Now, let's talk about Entanglement. In Season 10's Entangled, we get some literal quantum shenanigans. Crichton and the cat literally get entangled. Their actions synced in ridiculous ways, from finishing each other's sentences to moving in perfect unison. It's the show's way of turning a deep quantum mystery into slapstick. So what is it? Quantum entanglement is the strange phenomenon where two particles become linked so that wherever or whatever happens to one instantly affects the other, no matter how far apart they are. An experiment in the 1980s fired pairs of photons in opposite directions and showed that their properties stayed mysteriously linked and violated Bell's inequalities, which is essentially the particle speed limit, proving that there aren't any hidden instructions or secret messages zipping back and forth. It's just the universe being weirder and more connected than we ever thought. What Einstein famously called spooky action at a distance. And in true Red Dwarf style, Entangled takes the spooky action and turns it into Crichton and the cat pratfalling around the ship in perfect sync. It's absurd, of course, and hilarious, but it's also one of the few times the show names a real scientific principle outright. And then, finally, there's Skipper from season 12. Honestly, I think this one is probably one of my favorites. Rimmer gets his hands on the quantum skipper, which lets him hop between alternate universes, looking for the one where he's not a total smeghead. So a little bit of a spoiler. Good luck, Arnold. This episode actually doubles down on quantum theory. Early on, Crichton demonstrates the entanglement theory with a little experiment. Rimmer asks for an apple. Crichton throws him an apple, and Rimmer catches an orange. That's pure quantum entanglement in comedy form. And then, of course, the skipper itself is the ultimate many worlds device. Every choice you could have made, every regret you've got, somewhere out there, a version of you played it differently. So yeah, Grant and Naylor weren't afraid to mess around with the big stuff. Parallel universes, quantum entanglement, multiverse theory. These aren't just random sci-fi buzzwords. They're actual physics ideas, stretched and twisted into something ridiculous and funny. And what I love is how Red Dwarf can take concepts that stump even Nobel Prize winners and turn them into jokes about socks, oranges, and Arnold Rimmer's chronic lack of charisma. For me, episodes like Entangled and Skipper remind us that sci-fi doesn't always need to be hard science. Sometimes it's better when it's just soft science with the Red Dwarf guys at the center. And honestly, as I've been rewatching the later seasons, especially seasons 10 through 12, I've been impressed. The writing feels sharp again, and the gags really land. And the science-ish plots, they're still wonderfully ridiculous. Well, that's it for this deepish dive into quantum mechanics and Red Dwarf. Next up, we'll be tackling machine sentience. Think Holly, Taki Toaster, Crichton. Basically, what happens when your appliance begins to have subjective experience and personality. If you enjoyed this breakdown, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and check out my music inspired by Red Dwarf at the links in the description. Until next time, stoke me a clipper. I'll be back for Christmas. Whatever.